Mr. Greene, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished panelists, ambassadors, distinguished Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Secretary General of CARICOM Secretariat, who is sorry he couldn't be here this morning, but I have the honor to speak on this panel on his behalf. In the time available to me, I would focus first on the general perspectives of regional organizations in conflict prevention and peace building. Then I wish to address some remarks to the CARICOM priorities in this area, and then to deal with, in particular, the linkages that can be fostered by certain initiatives, including functional cooperation between regional institutions and civil society, and then just end with some general issues that I believe would have to draw the attention for future focus. Indeed, when we look at what we mean by resolving conflicts, it is very important that there are some different types of interventions related to different types of conflicts. In the formation of conflicts, there is need for early warning. In the escalation of conflicts, there is need for crisis intervention. And then in the enduring time of conflict, there is need for empowerment and mediation. And in this regard, civil society could play a most important role, as it could in the context of the improvement, the revival of peaceful relations between antagonists and creating perspectives related to problem solving and prevention. But I think that in the final analysis for systems, national, regional, and international systems, to reflect peace and prevention, that there must be institutional changes and different perspectives of how there are harmonious relationships. Indeed, when we look at the conflict formation phase, how it is initiated, what is perceived as a disjuncture between actors in any given social and political system. And conflict prevention, I think, which is perhaps most important in the way that we need to proceed, means controlling the situation where clashing goals exist in order to avoid the development of the escalation of violence. Most studies imply that there's very little recognition across the globe for early warning indicators. Only recently, as part of the Millennium Development Goals, have serious discussions started at the UN on the development of early warning capabilities and the need for preventive diplomacy. Regional organizations, seems to me, are critical players in preventive diplomacy and the provision of peace and security, especially in the area of the Americas. This is so because they bring together national authorities based on established protocols or treaties or procedures that are aimed at varying levels of integration. And indeed, it is very important that integration, which is the aim of most regional organizations, would be difficult in the context where peace does not prevail. There's also the allied nature and degree of success in aspects of regional economic development and increasing intra-regional agreements. For example, the provision of mediation in a number of conflict situations that really can be brought to bear in the ambit of a region. So, for example, currently in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean, a series of these conflict resolution activities are occurring in areas such as trafficking in drugs and small arms in humans. All these contribute to the increased internal civil violence, which could spill over into violence among countries. More recently, the highly regarded operation of MINUSCA in Haiti, for example, has been considered by many as a good example of successful collaboration between governments in the hemisphere, the OAS, the UN, and civil organizations, and I must add, and in some instances, the CARICOM community. Yet there remains barriers, and it's particularly noted that these barriers occur when the emphasis is placed strictly on bilateralism rather than multilateralism and multilateral approaches. And it is being argued that from the point of view of CARICOM, that it is the multilateral approaches that are sustainable. In the context of our hemisphere, bilateralism takes place largely with the US as a pivot. And although this occurs in relation also to trade agreements tied to peacekeeping, yet it is important to note that all studies show that this is not the most sustainable arrangement. Now, when we look at what is happening in the context of the regional institutions with the OAS identified as a pivotal point, there is a general perception that the Organization of American States is consistently and proactively involved in responding to conflict throughout Latin America and the Caribbean.